such, I'm Naylanice, and here with me is Joseph and Mason. Today we are talking about the reorganization of the Holyoke government offices.
In recent times, thanks to Alyssa, we learned that Holyoke is trying to avoid becoming like Springfield and a financial control board. A finance control board means that a city went bankrupt and the state came in with a loan and a group of folks with absolute power to help.
With the help of OY, also known as Open Architects, a data analysis support of finance consultant company, Holyoke is making a lot of changes.
One major change is the creation of a chief financial and administrative officer.
Or going from an elected treasurer to an appointed treasurer.
But what's the difference?
To answer your question and many others, why don't we listen to the interview from earlier this week with Holyoke's current treasurer, Rory Casey.
For years and years and years, the city had an elected treasurer. And, if you think about when the city charter was enacted in the late 1800s, it was a relatively, basic job. Money came in, money had to go out. The treasurer was responsible for, the care and custody of those funds, making sure that people were getting paid, making sure that the funds were being deposited and kept safe. And the actual language in the charter says that one of the main responsibilities was to maintain a fireproof vault to keep the currency in. Now, fast forward to the modern age, we're not dealing with a lot of cash and currency, and it's a lot more complicated than just some money coming in and money going out. So the city itself and the charter didn't really keep up with the times. And so starting in the 1980s, all the way up until, the late 2010s, we've had a string of issues with our elected treasurers. We've had money not being deposited correctly, the state coming in and taking issue with a number of the practices in the treasurer's office. The fact that so much of the responsibilities of a modern treasurer really are dependent on a certain level of education and experience and certifications. And if you think about the only requirement for that position is that they get one more vote than the next person, it's kind of a recipe for disaster. And so, and we've lived that. That's something that we've gone through here in the city of Holyoke, where it's gone as far as the state coming in and really chastising the city for practices that were happening in the treasurer's office. Money went missing. Money was stolen. People that worked in the office were taking funds and going to the casinos in Connecticut. We've had treasurers, and those were not the treasurers themselves, those were the treasurer's staff, but because there was such a lax level of oversight, because the treasurer is answerable to no one, and it really was just a popularity contest, and these people would keep getting elected, these things were allowed to continue. And, it even happened when we start getting into the, 2010s, we think about kind of the digital age, and we think about all the different types of cyber scams, phishing scams, and this office has fallen victim to that. We've even had treasurers, very innocently, fall victim to these things because they are sophisticated, and wired money that we were never able to recoup to bank accounts with bad actors. So you take a look at all of those things and you try to figure out, how do we improve this system? And with the state and outside auditors and others kept coming to the same conclusion, which is you're never going to be able to improve this unless you change the way your treasurer is selected and making it appointed. rather than elected. And so that's exactly that's why we set forth on this plan to get this done.
Okay. And then what is the, like, how are they going to do these changes? Like, I know they're creating a CAFO and then they're going from the elected treasurer to an appointed one. Like, how is that supposed to work with like the cuts and other fields?
Absolutely, that's a great question. So what we've been saying all along is that we can make lots of changes to the other financial offices, but if we weren't able to make this change in the treasurer's office, it really, you know, wouldn't have the positive impact we're trying to achieve. So changing this position from being elected to appointed was the first domino that needed to fall. And it's been a long time. I mean, this has been talked about since 2009 at least. And it was put on the ballot once before because this was enacted through the city's charter and it's an elected position. The only way to remove it was for the city council and the mayor to agree and send a petition to the state legislature. The state legislature, both houses had to agree and the governor had to sign that, and then it had to be put on a ballot. So the first time that it got to that point as a standalone item was in 2015, and it failed by just a few dozen votes. It really was a close race. And so it really wasn't until 10 years later that we didn't stop trying, but it really wasn't until 10 years later that we were able to finally get it back on the ballot. And so that happened in January.